So, you know how in software design, we sometimes end up with this tangled web of objects all talking directly to each other? It gets messy fast. Today, we're going to look at one really powerful pattern that can take all that chaos and turn it into something clean, maintainable, and way more efficient. Let's dive in. Does this scene feel a little too familiar? You've got all these different objects, and they're all chatting directly with one another. The problem is, when you change one thing, it creates this ripple effect, and suddenly you're forced to make changes all over the place. Your code feels brittle, super complex, and honestly, it's just a mess. If you're nodding your head right now, you are definitely in the right place. All right, so before we jump to the solution, we really have to look the problem straight in the eye. Let's explore the kind of communication chaos that happens when all your objects are left to fend for themselves without any kind of coordinator. Okay, let's make this real with a simple example, a chat application. Now, in the chaotic version, if Alice wants to talk to Bob and Charlie, her code needs to have a direct line, a direct reference to both of their objects. And it's the same for Bob and for Charlie and for everyone else. Every single user is directly wired to every other user they might want to talk to. You can probably already see the problem here. This setup, this free-for-all communication model, it creates four major headaches for any developer. We're talking about tight coupling, a ton of code duplication, huge scalability problems, and basically zero centralized control. Any one of these can bring a project grinding to a halt. This quote just hits the nail on the head. This is what we mean by tight coupling. When every single object has to know about and manage its connections to a bunch of other objects, they become hopelessly dependent on each other. You can't change one without running the risk of breaking, everything else. It's a recipe for bugs. And this is what you're left with. Want to add a new feature, like a group chat? Whoa, that's now a massive project. You need to change how messages are sent? Great, now you have to go and change that logic in every single user class. The whole thing becomes this fragile house of cards. It's a total nightmare to manage, and forget about trying to onboard a new developer. But okay, don't worry. There's a hero for this story. A well-known solution exists for this exact problem. It's time to bring in the Mediator Pattern, which is designed specifically to untangle this mess and bring some beautiful, structured order back to your system. So what is it exactly? The core idea behind the Mediator Pattern is to introduce a central object, the mediator. Its only job, its whole reason for existing, is to handle that complex web of interactions so that the individual components don't have to. It's all about centralizing your communication logic in one single place. I know, that definition can sound a bit academic, right? But this analogy makes it perfectly clear. Think of your objects like airplanes in the sky. It would be absolute chaos if every plane had to talk to every other plane to avoid a collision. Instead, they all talk to one central air traffic control tower. That tower is our mediator. It handles all the routing, all the coordination. It creates a simple, clean hub-and-spoke model. Okay, so now that we have our air traffic controller, our central hub, let's go back to our chaotic little chat application. We're about to see how this one simple change completely transforms the system, replacing all that chaos with wonderful clarity. And here it is. This is that aha moment. On the left, you see the tangled, brittle, unscalable mess that we started with. And on the right, with the mediator in place, the system is now decoupled, flexible, centralized, and scalable. The difference is just night and day. It's a huge win. So how does it fix those 4 big headaches we talked about? Well, let's break it down. First, your objects are decoupled because they only need to know about one thing, the mediator. This makes your code so much easier to reuse and test. It also means you can add a new user just by plugging them into the central hub. That's scalability. And finally, you get centralized control. All the communication rules live in one place, which makes finding bugs or changing logic way, way simpler.
Now, at this point, you might be thinking, hold on a second, aren't there other patterns that do something kind of similar? And that is a fantastic question. It's really important to know not just what a tool does, but why it's the right tool for a specific job. So let's clarify where the mediator fits in. As you can see, each of these patterns has its own specialty. The observer pattern, for instance, is perfect for one-to-many situations, like a subject sending out notifications. The command pattern is all about wrapping up a request into an object. But the mediator, its specific job is to centralize complex many-to-many interactions. It's the specialist for when you have a bunch of objects that all need to coordinate with each other. All right, we've covered the what and the why, but now for the most important part. How do you actually know when you need a mediator in your own projects? Let's turn all this theory into a practical tool that you can start using right away. So here's a little checklist you can run through. As you look at your code, ask yourself, am I seeing a tangled web of objects talking to each other? Do I feel the pain of that tight coupling every time I have to make a change? Do I find myself wishing I had just one single place to manage all this communication logic? If you're answering yes to these, that is a huge signal that a mediator might be exactly what you need. Look, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this right here. The mediator pattern is your go-to strategy for taking a chaotic, messy, all-to-all communication nightmare and transforming it into an elegant, manageable, and scalable hub-and-spoke architecture. It's that simple. So, I'll leave you with this question to think about. When you go back to your own projects, start looking for those complex interactions. Where's that hidden communication chaos that could be simplified? Where in your code is a mediator just waiting to be discovered, ready to bring some clarity and order?